E4 and C5, a Sicilian defence. Magnus, son of Carl, gives a whoop whoop with the black pieces as he plays the move. This is a classical game. Rameshbabu Pragg, just 18 years old, with white, Norway Chess, and what a shocking game we've got here with a capital S. Pragg goes knight f3. This is over the board, classical time control. Magnus goes for Le Francais variation, d4 very principled, captures, knight recaptures, and a6 here. Magnus unleashing the wrath of Can on the board. This is the Sicilian Can variation. Bishop d3, natural, defends the pawn, and if you ever get this or this, well, you're ready to take, liberate the bishop. Magnus goes queen c7. His dark squares are Swiss cheese. He does some coverage there, but after castles, only now on move 6 does he actually develop a piece into the game. This opening, not for the faint-hearted. Queen e2 from Prague. He now threatens to push on with e5 here. Magnus covers the threat, and now in response, we get c4, the most explosive move, setting up this Maroczy bind pawn formation. Prague in the darkness looking to bind Magnus. We get knight beats d7. Knight c3, very natural, and now Magnus doesn't play bishop e7, could be done. He goes knight e5, immediately foraying forward. Though we should note, on his first 9 moves, he's moved the same knight twice, a bunch of pawn moves, and developed his queen, plus a knight here. But he's breaking some opening principles. Now Prague's bishop is hit, so's his c4 pawn. How to respond? He's about to lose his bishop pair. You can go an immediate f4, although then the stuff happening on the dark squares gets very scary. So h3 played. Stop these knights here from hopping into g4. Very pesky. f4 in the wings, and now Magnus just pushes the boat out too far. Order of the day, develop the king side, get the monarch to safety. But what does he do? Pawn to b6 here. Is he preparing to fianchetto the rook in a moment of madness? Probably not, but it's too much. Prague now cracks on with f4, banging his chest like King Kong as he goes in a show of aggressive something. Now we get takes on d3 and queen recaptures. Magnus develops the bishop to b7, pawn under fire in the centre here, but it is defended, and now f5. Prague's taking this tin opener to Magnus's king position. The bishop has left the defence here, and if you go e5, you leave this gaping hole on d5. The knight starts rerouting. It's really miserable. So Magnus goes queen d7 here, and bishop g5. Best move. Look to attack this defender of the all-important d5 square. Now Magnus goes bishop e7, but the second cannon centralises. Look at Prague's forces. Everything in play, and if you now castle the king, there's a problem. The lady swings to the right into the attack, eyeballing the king. There's huge pressure. You know, if you go knight h5, hitting the queen, trying to exchange pieces, here's a sample line, and the pawns just come rumbling through the centre. The problem is this rook. You can't open the file, or the knight comes crashing through. It's all absolute carnage. So that's why Magnus goes rook to c8, looking for the classic pressure down here, pawn b5 in the wings, but now it allows Prague to play a brilliant, subtle, understated move. He comes up with queen to e2. Such a cool idea, retreating to then go forward and attack. It's like when you go backwards in the ring, right, to throw that jab. He's opened up the rook on the queen, and it's so uncomfortable. Again, if you castle the king, e5 is on the way, ripping open the pawns, and the knight hops with these amazing discoveries here. So that's why Magnus picks up his central pawn and pushes forward with pawn to e5. That move, more painful than a grandmaster watching a 900 try and play positional chess. but it's on the board. Prague now captures on f6 here, removing the defender of this square, and if pawn captures on d4, well, the bishop can retreat and capture that pawn. In fact, even stronger is throwing this intermezzo, hit the rook, then retreat and take the pawn after rook g8. So this one's captured, and now where do you put the knight? Well, obviously you put it on c2. Go out and strike thyself with a wooden pole. If you would have put it on f3 or b3, it has to come here because it's maneuvering via one of these squares into the promised land. So Magnus goes queen c6. He has to act fast. Pressure c4. b3 playable, but then you loosen the c3 knight. So Pragg goes knight e3 here. Good move. And now Magnus plays bishop g5. Desperate, of course, to eliminate this knight, get rid of his bad bishop on the same pawn complex as his own central pawns. And there's a really nice idea from Pragg. You just hop anyway, centralize the knight, give the c4 pawn, and then move the queen to g4 with tempo against the bishop. b6 is loose. A monster pony sits on d5. More than enough compensation for the pawn. But Pragg gets spooked and goes king h1 here, coming off the sensitive diagonal, but Magnus, quick as a flash, snaps off the knight on e3, of course. Queen recaptures. He's breathing a sigh of relief. Now you can take the pawn on c4, but it's not good. b6 then hangs. You've got loose stuff here. This is loose. King still not castled. Not the way to go. So instead, Magnus goes f6, but it's imprecise. Yes, he wants to stop Pragg from going f6, but he's just lifted the kilt to his king. Let me run back one move. Sorry, I was talking rubbish. It's not imprecise, it's precise. f6 was the best move, but it's not pleasant, I should say. Pragg goes b3, covering c4, and what does Magnus do? The very thematic pawn to b5. Opening lines, sometimes even at the cost of a pawn here, and of course you can't capture or your knight drops. So that's why knight d5. Pop a pony in the centre, what a piece. Pragg saying, aha, take on me, one of his favourite bands. Magnus doesn't yet do it, he loves a queen exchange. Pragg doesn't oblige, he slides into f3, and look at the light squares. Tender as a bare foot on a shingle beach. Now Magnus captures. This pawn could get really dangerous here, but check. No time to carry on marching the c-pawn for Magnus. First he has to play king f8, and what a miserable move is that. If Magnus had a chess coach right now, which maybe he does, he would be getting told off severely. You don't want to liberate your rook from the corner, you deserve to lose the game here. Rook f3 from Pragg, and what a great move. Hikari Nakamura calling this section of the game machine-like because of the quality. So bishop takes on d5 played. That knight was a big problem, converging on c3 as well as attacking ideas, stopping Magnus marching the pawn. So now we get takes, a tempo on the queen, it moves to b6, and now Pragg captures on c4. Yes, the rook can recapture, pressure the centre, but what a switcheroo. Coming on to this third rank, hitting the queen, it has to move, or does it? Pragg blocks first, and now this is a nice switchback. Rook d to d3. Who remembers DD from Dexter's Lab? What a show. Now we get takes on b3 and the computer hates it. Stockfish having a hernia. But what to do? Yes, you can go a5 or some other miserable moves. The problem is you just can't get this rook into the game. This was played. Rook recaptures. Queen is hit. Moves back to c7, of course covering the check here and some other sensitive points. Maybe in your dreams going for a perpetual, but queen d1 from Pragg now. He says whoosh as he brings that queen back. Lovely sweeping move, and Magnus now goes g6, desperate to run with the king, get the rook into the game. But how about this? Queen to b1 is just deadly, because if you try and run the king, you know, something like this, well, you just get absolutely kebabbed along the 7th rank. If you do something else, you know, then still check, king comes, then come back, do the same trick. So that's why the queen gets out of dodge here, but now rook b7. Do not throw in the check there. Encourage the king here. Let the rook escape. This is much better. Cut the king like a guillotine about to have its head chopped off. Magnus takes on f5, and now you want queen b3 to deliver checkmate on f7, but then Magnus lands a sneaky perpetual. So that's why king h2, a move that Anna Rudolph was in love with in the studio. It is a nice one, just a subtle, classy, killer waiting move. Rook g8 from Magnus, pressuring g2. That's the extent of commentary you get on Epic Cheese. And after queen b3, mate in one threatened, d5 to block, Pragg crashing through on h7, big threat of queen b8 check and mate after a kamikaze queen block. Magnus Carlsen threw in the towel. Sent the pieces flying, wet towel all over the board. No, just kidding, he resigned. Pragnananda takes home the win. What a victory for the young man. And he's got a head-to-head level record with Carlsen now in classical chess. Ding Liren, of course, went on to lose. We're going to have to call him Ding Luzen. Keeps going down at the minute. Poor guy. Fabi hit him with some opening prep. Hikaru and Ali Reza played it to a draw, but Hikaru took the Armageddon, launching off into space in the faster time controls. Hope you enjoyed. These are the standings, and for another excellent game of chess, check out the video on screen. Thanks very much for watching, and see you soon.